now. What is up, everybody? And it is time for another MLB Live Before Lock with myself and Eric Lindquist. So, do us a favor, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Last night, a weather-ridden slate, which ended up overall being a pretty decent one. Pretty okay. Yep. And hopefully we could replicate some of that today. Smaller slate. Here's what's nice, though. We don't have to worry about too much of the BS weather situations, games being canceled in the middle of the show, not knowing some weather situations in certain spots. I was really surprised that the Twins-Reds game played at all last night, but they only played half of it, so ultimately felt pretty good about fading that spot. But here we go, digging into this one. Small slate, interesting talking points. Is Spencer Strider back or not? Does it mean anything that he dominated the Rockies?
Yes, it does. Right. Stop it. Yes, it does. His velocity. Did you watch his velocity in this last start? Did you go through the box score? Did you see? He was hitting 98 again. He's back, baby.
Maybe.
He's back.
Could be.
He's back.
Okay, for a second you froze, and I was trying to figure, oh no, not again. Because if you did freeze in the position you were, your mouth was wide open, and I got very excited for multiple reasons. I got excited for a second. But, Eric, let's start by talking about Spencer Strider, because he's coming off Tommy John surgery. He had been terrible the entire – actually, I should take that back. He wasn't terrible by normal pitcher standards. He was terrible by Spencer Strider standards.
Correct.
And if you look at his numbers overall for the year – they're considerably better now. 4.35 ERA, 4.27 expected ERA, strikeout rate up to 29%. But almost all of the heavy lifting was done in his last start, where he dominated the Rockies, 6 scoreless innings with 13 strikeouts, just 1 walk. You've kind of tipped your hand a little bit. How much stock are you putting into that start versus the previous 5 starts we got out of him this season?
I am playing 100% Spencer Strider today. I bet over 6.5 strikeouts. I'll probably bet 7.5 here before it's all said and done as well. NoVig's got that as some nice plus money, some people posting. And usually you're getting your best lines at the exchanges now. So I don't have to do anything other than just kind of go through my normal process and find stuff. But the guy was out of control. And I get it. It was the Rockies. The Rockies have been a lot better of late, not just because we've seen them with Washington, but we get Michael Toglia coming back, getting rid of Keston Hiura. Like they're a revamped baseball team that I think is going to be much better going forward. I think they're up to like 17 wins now. They had like 8 2 weeks ago. So playing the Marlins, playing the Nationals, that probably helps. But I want to focus in on the velocity, because this is something I talked about for a long time last night. I broke down Spencer Strider in detail. I'm on the Atlanta Braves pretty heavily today as well. I mean, I'm pretty invested in this baseball game. And obviously from a DFS perspective, I think it wouldn't have mattered who it was. I think he still would have ran into like 9-10 strikeouts in that spot, even if it was the Blue Jays, even if it was the Cardinals, like some of these more strikeout immune teams, Houston. His velocity was back. He got it to 98.1 miles per hour as his average to the tippy top of his range. He was north of 96 miles per hour. On the season, he was right around 95. We're talking a 3 mile per hour difference between where he was sitting in his previous starts as he was ramping back up and where he showed up in the last start, Greg. So what I think is he got some of the rust off, and it's right there on Baseball Savant. It's not like I'm just making shit up. You can look for yourself. It's at 98.1 mile per hour is where he was able to get for the fastball in the tippy top of the range. It averaged between 94 and 98, right at 96.2 miles per hour. That is more than enough for me to be getting back on the Spencer Strider train. And I think we're going to see some serious swing and miss going forward from here on out.
Yeah, and he's not crazy popular either. He's not unowned. Pitcher ownership is somewhat flat for this slate. We've got a 40% owned Christopher Sanchez. Keep in mind, we're only looking at 5 games for today, but Christopher Sanchez is 50% owned. Then you've got 30% ownership to Charlie Morton. You've got 27% ownership to Strider, 26% ownership to Yamamoto. So it's not like he's chalk or anything either. I think he's a really good GPP target, and I also think it makes sense to stack against him just because, like I said, the last start, the results obviously were great. There are positive signs with the velocity, but it is still hard for me to put all that much stock into, look, he struck out a ton of guys from the Rockies, because if I'm not mistaken, Grant Holmes had like 16 strikeouts against the Rockies right after that the next day. So I wish we could have seen those results against like the Phillies or something like that. And then be like, hey, look, the velocity was there. and the results were there against a good team. I just never know how much stock to put into a good outing against the Colorado Rockies because Trevor Williams was able to shut down the Colorado Rockies today. So it's more the matchup and not really knowing what to make. And also his matchup today is brutally hard against the New York Mets. If he has a great outing against the Mets, I think we could fully declare that he's back. If he has a bad outing against the Mets, I don't even think that means he's not back. It just means he ran into a really tough matchup. So I want to be playing Strider. I want to be stacking against him a little bit. But I do think he offers the most upside of the three pay-up options on the slate: Strider, Yamamoto, and Sanchez.
Yep, I'm with you there. I mean, for me, it's simply like if he had done it against a good team, he'd be more popular. And like this is not a lot of popularity. And I get it. The Mets, they don't strike out a ton. You have some targets within the lineup, but for me, it's simply seeing him as the most positively leveraged pitcher in our tools. He is 10-6, which I think is probably the main concern that I have is just point per dollar. If you get a ridiculous outing from Sanchez and you get like something normal from Charlie Morton, like he doesn't get his face blown off in Tampa, you're probably not in a great spot at 10-6, but like I think his upside, just tournament winning upside, is so much higher than everybody else's. We have him at a top 2 percentage of 32.6 against the Mets. He's only in a quarter of the field's lineups. I mean, for me, this is just a full out. I haven't had a full out jam in a while, but I saw, as soon as I saw the pitcher ownership this morning, I was like, well, guess I'm playing 100% Spencer Strider. Not much I can do about it.
We did just recently get an ownership update, which is actually really interesting to me because we now have Charlie Morton over 30% owned and the second most popular pitcher on the slate. We'll talk more about this when we get to offenses.
Oh, yeah.
But,
I'm stacking Tampa. Oh, yeah.
But Tampa Bay looks really appealing to me as a stack, especially considering what some of the bullpen situations might look like there, because that was a high-scoring game yesterday. 12-8 was the final score there. So we could have a scenario here where bullpens are depleted, and that could be problematic for the pitching of the opposing teams if starters are out there early. And I know Charlie Morton was great in his last start, but he's had a lot of really terrible starts so far this year. But anyway, on the high end, Spencer Strider, I think he offers the most upside. I think Christopher Sanchez offers the most security. He
Correct.
Isn't the highest strikeout pitcher in the world or anything like that, but Strider's pitching against the Mets. Yamamoto's pitching against the Padres. Christopher Sanchez is pitching against the Marlins. So for cash games, I really like Christopher Sanchez on the high end. I just prefer Yamamoto and Strider for tournaments.
Yeah, I prefer both of them for tournaments as well. I'm a little bit under on Christopher Sanchez, but not by much. 35% of the 40 lineups I'm playing. I guess that's just grouped out for my top 150 for what it's worth, my 35% number. I'm going to trim it down. It could end up a little bit more, a little bit less. But the point of the matter is they have the lowest implied run total on the entire slate. The Miami Marlins do. So it makes sense in that ballpark with the ground ball and the strikeout stuff of Christopher Sanchez. It's not like an overly appealing day in, day out strikeout matchup anymore. Like a lot of the big strikeout guys are either left-handed and not in the lineup, or they've been sent to the shadow realm because they struck out in infinite amounts. It's not the best strikeout spot, but God, you've got to feel really secure about him taking on this version of the Marlins that are rolling out Heriberto Hernandez in the cleanup hole. They basically, Jesus Sanchez is in the 8 hole. They have to play him just left on left. It is what it is, even though he's got horrible splits. Don't know what else to add. I mean, you could play as much little of him, but when I'm jamming Spencer Strider, I'm already making a pretty noticeable stand in one direction on this slate. So Sanchez, he'll probably just kind of be littered amongst the rest of my SB2s, like 30-35% on some of these more popular guys.
Totally makes sense to me. And if you just look at the Sims here with no adjustments being made, we got the most of Strider, the second most of Sanchez. Did come in a little bit underweight to the field too, and that's because he's pulling north of 40% ownership. And then we got the least of Yamamoto of the three, which I would flip for tournaments, Yamamoto and Sanchez, just because of the ownership that we are seeing going towards Christopher Sanchez. But I do feel the best about Strider having the most upside. Anything else you want to add about Yamamoto or any other pay-up option takes?
Yeah, I kind of want to stack the Padres a little bit. There's some concerning stuff going on. If you really dig into Yamamoto, he got a little squeezed and then gave up the grand slam to Casey Schmidt last time out. Like, that's not even where the concern really lies. This just comes from me like night in, night out. I'm always going through the game logs and seeing what I can learn, seeing if there's anything that changes, seeing if I can find anything. But for me, it's simply like, I don't know what's going on with the splitter right now, but it isn't nearly as effective as what it was earlier in the season. And it might just be a small sample size deal. You can, when you're only throwing a pitch 18, 20 times a game, it can have some strange effects. But like for me, he had only 6 swinging strikes against San Francisco the entire game, Greg. That is a really, really low number on a guy like Yamamoto. And I don't want to go crazy with it. I don't want to say that, oh, we're just going to have so many problems, but like that's just auspicious. And it's like, all right, if you're going to get 6 swinging strikes in an entire ball game, it doesn't even matter the count. That's asking a lot in terms of like what his strikeout upside could be against a difficult matchup here. I'm inclined to take his under at books. I haven't bet it yet, but I do think Yamamoto from a DFS perspective is interesting purely because of his ownership, but I'm definitely going to have some Padres intermixed in between everything, because if he's not getting swing and miss with the splitter, I don't see it happening with the 4-seamer or anything else right now in the arsenal. So just a concerning thing I wanted to bring up to the people.
Yeah. And, the only thing to me to really dislike about Yamamoto is he's expensive. Hate the matchup against the Padres. Like in the grand scheme of things on the slate, those are the things that are the biggest red flags for me. Let's talk about the 7K pitchers. Drew Rasmussen, Clay Holmes, Edward Cabrera. Edward Cabrera is the one who is pulling the most exposure in the Sims across the top 150 lineups I've favored. He's showing up in 35%. Rasmussen is showing up in 9% of lineups, and then Clay Holmes just in 10%. Edward Cabrera always scares the shit out of me just because he is a guy who, who he's pretty similar to is who was we were talking about the other day? Blanking right now. Ben Brown. There we go. All right.
Oh my God. Thank you for all the great clues you gave me. Jeez.
Yeah. Well, because it came to my mind just as I was about to start giving clues. Because what was happening is I was thinking of them in my head, and then I realized who it was that I was.
I don't want to be in your head. That's a scary place.
Yeah.
Continue.
So a pitcher who historically has not been great, not terrible either, but you look at him, 4.28 ERA for his career, 4.64 FIP, but tremendous strikeout stuff. So Edward Cabrera this year, 25% strike rate. It's 26% overall for his career. Hate the matchup against the Philadelphia Phillies, but one of these guys where if he's able to get through 5-6 innings, he is probably going to have 6, 7, 8 strikeouts or something along those lines. The issue, though, if he's not finding the strike zone early, he could end up putting guys on base. He's homer prone. Runs could end up being scoring. So he's this guy every single time he pitches, regardless of the matchup, you could get like -5 fantasy points or 30 fantasy points out of Edward Cabrera, which once again for GPPs, pretty appealing to me. I think him and Strider are the 2 highest variance pitchers on the entire slate. Makes sense to play them. Also makes sense to stack against them.
Yeah, I think he's so interesting because he's doing a lot of things really well relative to what I thought he would do at the big league level. Like right now, he's got a 44.3% hard hit, but like you go through the data, it's been really good against lefties as far as like ground ball percentage, 45.1%. That's higher than like around the 40% he has against righties. He's finding ways of just survival in like some unsustainable ways. That's for sure. I mean, I don't love seeing a 338 BABIP, 324 BABIP, respectively against each hand, but like that's got to come down, I would think, a little bit, especially he's giving up just a 245 average to lefties, 313 WOBA to lefties, as opposed to a 360 WOBA to righties. So like he's got a little bit of reverse split stuff going on. I don't really know why when you go through the mix, but the whole fact of the matter is that he's a strikeout arm, and you run into a spot where you have BABIP go in your favor for a game, or you don't give up, a bomb or two, you're probably sitting pretty having a guy like Edward Cabrera who gets to face Schwarber 3 times at least, gets to face, I would say Kepler higher up in the order as opposed to a Harper's probably an all right thing, with Harper still hurt. Otto Kemp batting 6th. The higher up he bats, the better off you are as well. So with Bryson Stott in the 7 hole, Marchand in the 8 hole, and you don't have JT Realmuto in there, although he's not exactly having a year himself. I can definitely see a case for like being a little bit overweight to him and being just fine with that. The Sims are really overweight to him here at the moment, it would appear, and I'm okay with it, but not in love with it. Obviously, I only have so many SP2 spots to rotate around.
We've got a question from Ethan7 in the Discord channel. He wants to know, what is our favorite single entry pitcher combination? It's a tough one. I think there's so many different directions you could go here. I think you could make a case for Strider in single entry. Sanchez, Rasmussen, I think, is viable. Charlie Morton, I think, is a little bit too popular. Edward Cabrera. Even the Astros are going to be crazy popular. Jacob Lopez, he's not been as bad as I think a lot of people think him to be. I think he's a good leverage pitcher as well at $6,300, single digit owned against what's going to be the most popular team in single entry. The Astros have just gone absolutely nuclear, 2 slates in a row, which is definitely going to drive some ownership there, especially because they've been popular on those couple of slates. So a lot of different directions that you could go. I think it definitely depends on what it is that you want to be doing with your stack and how expensive you want to get with it. But to me, my favorite single entry pitcher combination, I don't even know that I have a favorite. There's so many different directions to go. I'm leaning towards playing Jacob Lopez in single entry and just completely rolling dice with nonsense though.
Oh, you have fun with that. I'm going to play Strider Sanchez because I don't find it all that cost prohibitive with the stacks that I like for single entry to make it work. I think we can make Tampa work pretty darn easily, and that's the one I'm rolling out in single entry. So Strider Sanchez, I'm going chalky.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. Also, if you're going to be going with high variance pitcher, Christopher Sanchez, even though I do think he's a little bit overowned, if you're going to be going with like a Jacob Lopez or something like that, then I definitely think that that's okay to be going with a chalk pitcher who brings a little bit more security. Yeah, I'm leaning towards playing Jacob Lopez, and I'll talk a little bit more about Lopez right now. He has a 4.8 ERA, but he has a 3.57 expected ERA. He has a 3.47 BABIP so far this year. He does have a 29% strikeout rate. So I don't know, guy, 3.57 expected ERA, 29% strikeout rate, going up against the most popular offense on the entire slate. Obviously, it's a scary proposition. It's a very hitter-friendly ballpark. The Astros have absolutely crushed the A's in back-to-back games here. But I think Jacob Lopez, relative to his price tag and his strikeout upside, is way under-owned. He's not that bad, in my opinion.
He's not that bad, but he's not that good.
No, he's 3.57 expected ERA, 29% strikeout rate.
Yeah.
I think that he's, from what we've seen so far, I think he is, unless he just ends up being a guy who the underlying stats just never end up being the actual numbers for him. I mean, he had a 3.59 expected ERA last year. That was very limited sample size, and it's a 3.57 expected ERA so far this year.
Yeah, I get nervous about extreme fly ball pitchers in that ballpark. He mowed down the Twins, even though he gave up 5 runs to us as well along the way. So 9 strikeouts for him. Kansas City, win was in. It was a decent spot. That's by far his best, but the fly balls obviously aren't going to kill you in Kaufman. He hasn't really had a dynamite home outing. Like, Baltimore was good, but he went, 4 innings, just 5 strikeouts, and, it was fine. I just get really worried about the ballpark and the fact that, I think there's definitely some matchups, but he's not popular, and you're getting leverage against the most popular team. So, I like your thoughts on that. I definitely think it's viable. I just don't want to go crazy with it for sure.
I'm going to push back against one thing. I think the start at home against the Phillies was a very impressive home start for him.
Find it here.
He pitched at home against the Phillies, 7 strikeout. That's
a great
7 innings, 1 earned run.
Yeah.
That's a really tough matchup against the Phillies too.
Look at his fly ball rate too. 12 fly balls to 2 ground balls in that entire game. I mean, he is walking the plank, sir. He's walking right up to the edge of the water, and he's either swan diving or belly flopping. I mean, there's not an in between. It would appear.
I mean, you just look at his last 5 outings, though. 8 strikeouts and 1 walk against the Phillies, 9 strikeouts, 1 walk against the Twins, 9 strikeouts, 1 walk against the Royals. I think it is inarguable that he has immense upside just based on 3 of his last 5 games. And once again, Phillies, that is not an easy matchup.
No.
Twins, like, super hit and miss this year. They've been all over the place, but it's still not the easiest matchup in the world. There's a lot of strikeout upside here.
Yeah, I don't dispute that. I really, really don't. He's giving up the platoon, though, in a hot, small ballpark as an extreme fly ball pitcher. Those are I'm just saying like what it is, but I totally see the case for. I mean, if you're trying to get different, this is a really good way to get different on this tournament. If it works out for you, you're getting to maybe a Dodgers stack that's a little bit more inaccessible for the rest of the world. I mean, there's definitely a lot of reasons to look at this with like Houston, the most popular team on the slate, or second, I guess, behind the Dodgers. But what Dodgers you're able to get to is very much indicative on what your pitchers are. So obviously I'm lower on the Dodgers. I have pieces like Freeman and Ohtani, but I can't play them collectively at the top of the lineup because I have so much Strider. But yeah, I totally get the case for getting to Lopez.
Yeah, and Tom Olson in the chat saying that I'm ignoring the start against the Jays. I mean, I'm not denying that there's downside, but I think the field is ignoring that he has upside. Like, I'll acknowledge there's a reason the Astros are the most popular team on the slate. I don't think that's without warrant, but I think that the field is missing out on Jacob Lopez with him being the second lowest owned pitcher on the entire slate. Like, if you look at the 2 super cheap punt options who aren't pulling ownership, Ryan Burgett and Jacob Lopez, is the upside isn't even comparable between the 2.
Yep. I'm 100% behind that. I mean, you would have to be high and drunk and something else, maybe like Fifth Dimension Interstellar style, going through the bookshelves in order to like play Ryan Burgert today. That would just be, stay. I hate that movie. I can't believe my brain went there.
Let's talk about the other punt option who's really popular, Charlie Morton.
Yeah.
Got him pulling 32% ownership. He's now your second most popular pitcher on the entire slate. He has generally been considerably worse than Jacob Lopez this season, but he is coming off a really good start. With that said, Jacob Lopez is also coming off a really good start. Charlie Morton this year, 6.05 ERA, 4.36 expected ERA, 4.77 FIP for Morton. Still is generating strikeouts at 23%, despite being, 41 years old now. Charlie Morton, I think that he is the safest of the cheap punt options, but that's not saying much. And I think he's overowned today. Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to undervalue what he did last time out. 78 pitches, found himself to some absolute ridiculousness. Just an incredible outing overall from him. But I am with you where he's just overowned. This is your most overowned pitcher. I don't even know how you'd make a case for the next person, but out of 78 pitches, you still had 16 swinging strikes. That's a ridiculous number. I don't want to say that he isn't effective there, but this is a awful ballpark. This is a very, very platoon heavy Tampa Bay lineup. We're going to get Lowe. I mean, Diaz makes contact. Caminero is really good. You got Mangum there. You got Meisner, both from the left side there for it. Caballero is pretty functional. Danny Jansen's a functional catcher as well. I mean, this is just a really tough spot to be pitching in 85-degree, 80% humidity weather in Tampa for Charlie Morton. He's pitched well now at home in a couple of difficult spots where the wind was blowing out to right. So again, I don't want to completely besmirch it, but Angels and White Sox are definitely gettable in a strikeout perspective. I don't think we're going to get the same stuff. I think 5.5 is a little bit heavy in the marketplace for him right now. I definitely like that under, but haven't bet it purely because I'm just not going to play any in DFS.
Let's talk FanDuel pitchers because the makeup is different over on FanDuel where Spencer Strider is the chalk because he's $8,600. So you got Strider 27% at $8,600 just because the price tag is so cheap, even though it's a matchup against the Mets. I think he's your cash game pitcher over on FanDuel. Christopher Sanchez, he is 19% owned at $9,700. Yamamoto 10-1, he's 14% owned. Eric, you've talked about really liking Strider over on DraftKings. What do you make of him on FanDuel where he is the chalk at pitcher?
Yeah, I wouldn't play 100% of him on FanDuel. I'm playing 100% on DK, pretty calculated. His price tag is stupid on FanDuel for what it's worth. 8,600 is just dumb, but you still have a pretty decent implied total there. You don't get away with it just by getting strikeouts there the way that you do with everybody else. I think the most interesting guy on that entire slate is probably Edward Cabrera. We haven't talked about Rasmussen, who has looked really, really good until the last two outings. He had just been completely nails up until then. I think he's somewhere in the middle of what we've seen lately, or what we had seen previously, and then his last two starts. So he's just kind of meh to me. But like Edward Cabrera, 7,800, and I'm just kind of like looking at the stacks here too. Houston is the most popular stack. You could maybe take a look at Lopez or something, but I think there's individual Phillies hitters that are just kind of up higher on the board on FanDuel than what they are on DK. I think Edward Cabrera is pretty darn interesting at that ownership and at that price tag.
Yeah, for me, I like Christopher Sanchez at the 19% FanDuel ownership at $9,700. The price tag is reasonable. There's a good amount of security. I think he's fairly likely to get the win bonus as well as the quality start bonus. So Christopher Sanchez is my overall favorite option over on FanDuel. If you want to get contrarian, though, I do agree with you. Edward Cabrera at 7% ownership. That's reasonable. I'm less inclined to play Jacob Lopez over on FanDuel. Just he's a little bit more expensive at $7,500. So he's even more pricey than Charlie Morton. He's about the same price as Edward Cabrera over on FanDuel. So I don't think the risk is quite necessary over there. Not that it's necessary on DraftKings. I'm just more willing to take that risk on DraftKings where I have to roster two pitchers. But overall, I like Christopher Sanchez the best on FanDuel. But obviously Strider, for sure, a good option at $8,600. Morton at $7,100 to me is more viable on FanDuel than DraftKings just because he's not pop. He's 13% owned over on FanDuel. That's wildly different than him being 32% owned over on DraftKings. But I would rather play Edward Cabrera in that price range over on FanDuel. And you also want to talk about it, pitcher? If not, we will look at some stacks.
Let's go to stacks.
All right. And also, if you guys haven't done yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you are looking to sign up for any of the packages here at Stokastic, take advantage of our link join offer. For each one of the partners here that you guys sign up for, you are going to get 1 free month of core access to a sport of your choosing. So you could get yourself 3 months of baseball by signing up for 3 of these books and carry yourself all the way up to the start of football season. And we never know when these books are going to come, go, new ones get added, ones go away. We had Vivid Picks was part of this for a couple of months and they just pulled out. So take advantage of these offers while you can because they're really good deals. There's good deposit bonus offers, getting yourself free subscription to the site. So check it out. Make sure you go through the link down below in the YouTube description box because that is necessary for the tracking of your sign up. Stack time, Eric. And I have my single entry lineup locked in. I am going to be stacking the Tampa Bay Rays, which has a lot to do with this increased ownership in Charlie Morton that we've seen go up since like an hour ago or so. But you're getting over 30% ownership on Charlie Morton, who's really not been great this year. And then on top of it as well, like we were bringing up a second ago, here's the situation with the bullpens here. That game yesterday, 12-8, the Rays ended up winning. The Orioles got off to a pretty hot start in that game. Were the Orioles up? Yeah, the Orioles were up 8-0 and lost 12.
8-0 in the second. Yeah, they didn't put up another. So, I mean, I was just like, oh, man, I got the absolute nutties. I'm just going to fucking slam this slate. And I didn't even have that much in place. So that was kind of the bummer of it. I was like, still doubled my money. But like, I was lamenting the fact that I didn't jam that slate. And then they did nothing for 8 consecutive innings. It was absurd. It was actually absurd to watch.
And I mean, you look at the Orioles, who already don't have the greatest bullpen in the world. They had Blewett had to pitch an inning in 2/3. Cano had to pitch 2/3 of an inning. Dominguez had to pitch 1 1/3 innings. Kittredge had to pitch an inning. Baker had to pitch an inning. And still guys like Dominguez, Baker, these are some of the better relievers that they have in their bullpen. So you got a pitcher who is blow-up prone in Charlie Morton, who's also chalky, a depleted bullpen. I like the leverage that we're getting on the Tampa Bay Rays. That's what I'm rolling with in single entry.
As am I. It was pretty clear cut also when you look at the ownership and the way that you and I think about DFS and have our entire lives. It's pretty clear cut. This is like cut and dry. Go back to your basics in MLB DFS. You have a very popular, very mistake prone pitcher who's going to be chalky. Those are the ones you want to stack against. Not not the aces, not necessarily Paul Skeens and Tariq Skubal hoping that the 1 percentile outcome when, the entire stack is 0.4% on across the board goes off. Like, have fun doing that 100 times with Tariq Skubal and let me know how it goes. Tariq Skubal is very good, but I don't think Charlie Morton should be this popular. I don't think he's all that good at this stage of his career. It is very clear-cut in this ballpark, in this game environment with the Tampa ownership, that they are your single entry team, and I'm happy to roll with that too.
Yeah, Tampa Bay Rays for myself. Let's talk about the ownership going to the Houston Astros. The Sims like Houston as a stack. They are going to be the most popular team on the slate. They've got a matchup against Jacob Lopez, which, like I really don't think he's as bad as he's made out to be. It doesn't mean he can't get lit up by the Astros, and there is obviously upside against him just because he has the high fly ball rate in that particular ballpark, like you had mentioned, Eric. Houston Astros, 21% on. We got them with a 20% chance of being the top scoring team on the slate. That leads the top stacks tool. I don't have an issue with anybody saying they're stacking the Astros. It is just a lot of ownership going to them on a small slate. So my preference is to go elsewhere with my stacking.
Agreed.
By the way, Einsteinium asks, do we like Atlanta in single entry for tonight? Any interest in the Atlanta Braves against Clay Holmes? For me, more of a large field stack than a single entry stack, just because I think there's other spots like stacking the Orioles or stacking the Rays, for instance, where you're getting fairly low-owned teams that I think have pretty good upside. I don't have an issue with the Braves stack. It's just not my favorite single entry team.
Yeah, I mean, Clay Holmes on the surface has had pretty good results this season, 2.87 ERA. You go through the numbers, 1.17 whip, but negative regression is due for him, 3.91 expected ERA. He's not playing any ownership, and it's not the cheapest stack to be getting to top to bottom, specifically Acuna, who's just been out of control right out of the gate. Riley, Olsen, Ozuna, Baldwin, Ozzy Albies, Michael Harris is, down there, but should be because he's been awful. I don't love the stack today, but obviously I'm very much cheering for them, having invested in the Braves here. I just think Clay Holmes is functional enough. I just think that if what I'm looking at with Strider is correct, I just want to get paid off in that direction. Probably more of a large field stack, definitely not for single entry or one lineup, or I doubt they even make one lineup in 20 for me when it's all said and done.
What are some of the lower owned stacks you like? Not that we have that many to choose from because, the ownership today, we've got 21% to the Astros, 15% to the Dodgers, 10% to the A's, 10% to the Phillies, 10% to the Braves. And then, we like the Rays as a leverage stack. They're still 9% owned. So let's just look at all the team. If you had to pick one team to roster as a stack, sub 10% owned, other than the Tampa Bay Rays, which team would you be going with in that situation? I've got one for myself. I could answer while you think on it. For me, it's going to be the Mets against Strider, just because of what I mentioned at the top. Is Strider back? Potentially. He's one of my favorite pitchers in the league. I really love watching him pitch. I would love for him to be back. I'm just not totally sold on it because of one outing against the Rockies. I want to see a little bit more out of him. If we see him lights out, shut down the Mets today, then I'll feel really confident saying Strider's going to be an ace going forward. I'm just not totally sold on that. So I think this is one that makes a lot of sense to play both sides of. And you got the Mets as the fourth lowest owned team on the entire slate. It's not a ton of leverage. It is leverage on FanDuel, where Strider is the most popular pitcher. DraftKings just kind of middling ownership going to him. But I don't think the Mets are going to be all that popular. And I do think there's chance for upside here. Atlanta's a very hitter-friendly ballpark. Spencer Strider, even peak Spencer Strider, had his blow-up starts and struggled with home runs at times. So I'm willing to take shots on the Mets as a contrarian team. Anybody that you are liking that is and if the answer is just no teams that you're liking really that much outside of the Rays sub 10% ownership, totally fair. But have you come up with an answer after thinking on it?
Yeah, the Padres and the Marlins. I'm not playing a single Mets batter because I've got 100% Strider, but Baltimore probably as well. I mean, it's weird. I kind of like the guys all the way down at the bottom more. Like, you're getting leverage against the most popular pitcher on the slate in Sanchez. Yamamoto is going to pull quite a bit of ownership. I do have some concerning stuff. It's also hot as balls outside. So yeah, the Dodgers, with Yamamoto, they're definitely relying on him to stay healthy and mow guys down, but that really hasn't been the case here of late. And I have some concerns about the swing and miss absence. And Baltimore, they're in the best ballpark you could possibly ask for outside of the Sacramento game. But yeah, I like them all more than I like Atlanta, the Mets. Tampa Bay's about appropriately owned. And the Phillies, I think, are a little over-owned. So yeah, I'd be going all the way to the bottom in terms of ownership share.
Okay. All right. I definitely see the leverage that's there going up against Christopher Sanchez or going against Yamamoto. And, the Padres also happen to have a pretty good offense. The one team that's really popular that we have not touched on yet, the Los Angeles Dodgers, pulling 15% ownership as a team. We do it with a 16% chance to be a top stack. The biggest issue I have with the Dodgers, they're really pricey, and I just don't really like the hitters at the back of the order all that much. So if I'm going to be playing the Dodgers, I prefer them as either a secondary stack or as one-offs. 5-mans, I just find it a little bit difficult to pay up for the price tags and get in decent pitchers. Sure, you could do a 5-man Dodger stack and go Jacob Lopez and Edward Cabrera at pitcher, but it's not necessarily my favorite build to be making. I prefer reserving the Dodgers, like I said, one-offs, secondary stacks. Are you finding it easier than I am to make 5-man Dodger stacks?
No, it's hard. I'm underweight to them. I find them to be extremely difficult to get to, especially with 100% Strider. So, I am of the mind that you can definitely play one-offs of just about anybody on any given day. It is not that hard to get to Ohtani if you want to get to Ohtani. It is not that hard to get to Acuna at 6,400 one-offs, but like as a full stack, boy, is it difficult to get to Ohtani, Freeman, Betts, Will Smith. Like it's kind of a stone cold disaster, if I'm being honest. Even no matter what you do, you're going to have to compromise something on a given slate where you can't just do everything you want to do. Otherwise, it's probably just like a salary-less slate, but boy, is it difficult to get to Dodgers today. So yeah, that's actively outside of Freeman and Ohtani, the team that I am cheering against the most tonight.
All right. So we got a super chat from me, Mac. I don't know what the hell this means. Maybe you do because
no.
Did you see
he wants to sound smart or he wants to be a smart aleck. I don't know what he's doing, but
he wants to know what your thoughts are on Adobe, like the printer. Am I missing something?
Yeah,
is there a joke here that I don't understand?
I don't know. Maybe I don't know ball and he wants to throw it out there. I have no clue. He's an old man yelling at clouds. I really don't give a shit.
EMAC. Elaborate, because I don't know what it is that you're talking about. Is it a spelling error? Is he doing one of these old man things where it's like voice to text and he said something? Because I get that from my dad all the time. He tries to text me something, he doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think it's Clay Holmes' nickname. Apparently, yeah. I took the under 4.5 strikeouts on him. I don't know.
Why is that his nickname and since when?
I don't know. It's stupid. It's just EMAC being EMAC. We have to deal with it sometimes.
I don't really have interest in Clay Holmes personally.
None.
Not for me. So Eric, just a couple minutes left to go in the show, which means it is time for some dong picks. So do us a favor, guys. Let us know who you are picking to go yard today and like the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you guys have not already. Sotek says he thought he meant Adobe, the software. Yeah, I did as well because I just didn't know what else it could possibly be that was being referenced. But even more important than that, we got to tell people what we're liking for dongs today before we head out for the night. So Eric, who are you picking to go yard today? And then, of course, we'll read off some of your guys' picks from chat.
Yeah, I'm 2 for 2 so far to start off the day in the betting perspective. Can we get 2 more? That would be very nice for the people over on X for Lindy's long balls. And Adley Rutschman's one of them, but I won't go to him for DFS here in this spot. Let's go to, just like yesterday, Ramon Laureano, somebody that I didn't bet, but I had a ton of. He was my highest owned batter. I want to go to my highest owned batter on today's slate. That is Brandon Lowe. Brandon Lowe is just a ridiculous human being. 4,400 today, second base against Charlie Morton. You get the leverage. He's on an absolute tear. I'm not even a hot streaks guy whatsoever. I just think it's great positionality and way too cheap for the power that he brings to the table. Brandon Lowe, dong of the day.
This rarely happens, but my home run pick, Brandon Lowe. Brandon Lowe, who There's a point in time where he was kind of like a stealth MVP candidate, like way back in 2021 when he was 5 wins above replacement as a middle infielder, 39 home runs. He had an excellent first half of the year. Then he kind of tailed off a little bit. But so far this year, 126 WRC plus, right in line with this guy is really fucking good. 126 WRC plus as a second baseman, which, by the way, is exactly in line with what he has for his career, 126 WRC plus. Talking about a second baseman who legitimately is 30-plus homer upside. We've seen him hit as many as 39 homers. He's up to 14 homers so far this year in 67 games. I'm with you, Eric. I like stacking the Rays. I like picking on Charlie Morton. I am going with Brandon Lau as well. From chat, let's see what chat has. Charles Moran has got Andy Pajes. We've got Damani Tatum going with Brent Rooker. Malukar has got Pete Alonso. We've got Go Fies is going with Andy Pajes as well. Dirty O has got Mauricio Dubon. We've got Low and Lau from Nate. Junior Caminero from Ethan Bomba. Cam Smith from Anthony. Clintwood 83 has got Brent Rooker. Folk Matt has got Brent Rooker. Look at that. Lots of Brent Rooker picks. So Texas Shohei Ohtani. Emac is going with Gavin Sheets. Anthony has Cam Smith. Tom Olson is going with, believe it or not, Matt Olson. Go Fies is also got Cam Smith there. NY Stiegel, Teoscar Hernandez. Anthony's got Francisco Lindor. Ryan Stubbs is Josh Lowe. Jameson Bonner has Lawrence Butler. And then we've got Juan Soto as well there from Anthony. And Josh Dibdahl, he's throwing in a double Max Muncy Dongton. I don't know if that means the 2 Muncies combined for 2 home runs. I don't know if that means they homer individually. I don't know if that means Max Muncy of the Dodgers hits 2 homers. But he's asking for a double Max Muncy Dong night. And guys, that is going to do it for us in just a little bit. An hour and 20 minutes. Josh is going to be on the channel doing perhaps the last NBA Live Before Lock until October. Game 6. We've got the Thunder, I think 7-point favorites last time I looked. So the most likely scenario is that the Thunder will be NBA champions tonight and the NBA season will end. So make sure you guys check out Josh's show. Last one potentially, and then it'll be on playback afterwards as well to watch the game. So guys, thank you very much for watching. Have a good night. We'll see you back here tomorrow.